Late this afternoon, police officers recovered the surveillance video that shows two people wheeling an apparently heavy object in a shopping cart. A shopping cart similar to the one found burning on a desolate street in Yonkers at 2 a.m. on Monday. Inside the shopping cart was a dismembered human body. One source familiar with the investigation tells Eyewitness News that the corpse's teeth had been torn out and its fingers cut off. Police later discovered that the corpse was transported to Yonkers aboard a Metro North commuter train. Eyewitness News has learned that the people boarded the train at the Melrose station, roughly 1 mile from the apartment, and that the corpse had been frozen. When police searched the apartment, they found the victim's legs in the freezer, the hands in a crock pot filled with bleach.
2 children are among 4 family members killed over the weekend in a crash. Police say they do have 2 suspects in custody, and they blame the crash on street racing. Amelia McGavro spoke with a witness who is haunted by what she saw and heard.
This is where the car turned and rolled.
Yvette Acosta walked me through the terrifying moments when a quick stop at her local gas station turned into witnessing a high-speed crash. A crash that tragically killed 4 members of the Rosales family. Parents Jesse and Lorena Rosales and their 2 young kids, 6-year-old Angel and 13-year-old daughter Stephanie. A third child, 16-year-old Anthony Rosales, suffering serious injuries and is still in the hospital.
Where was the car engulfed in flames?
Right here, right where that black area is.
Acosta capturing the chaos of the scene Saturday night. The Rosales family car is seen engulfed in flames by the fuel stop gas station off of South Beltline. Grand Prairie police say 2 drivers in red and white Dodge Chargers were racing each other along Beltline around 8 p.m.
And investigators say the Rosales family was heading northbound on Beltline, turning onto a side street. That's when one of those racing cars hit the family at a very high rate of speed, causing the car to flip and catch fire at the spot right behind me.
Devastating and very hurtful because a lot of people were trying to help them and they couldn't get close to them.
Acosta says she's still haunted by the screams she heard coming from the car.
I haven't been able to sleep well. Hearing them and not being able to get them out, not being able to do anything, it's very hurtful.
Police saying they now have both drivers in custody. 22-year-old Anthony Morales fled the scene and was arrested Sunday night. Police say the other driver, Jamie Mesa, is still in the hospital and will be arrested on 4 charges of manslaughter. Both are facing charges of racing on the highway, causing death and bodily injury.
How often would you say racing happens on Beltline?
Oh, it happens almost every other day, every day.
Acosta says a deadly street racing crash actually happened in the same area a couple years ago and hopes something can be done to prevent future crashes.
And as a mother, it's hurtful. And I know those people, those families are going through a lot right now. And I just pray for them and hope that everything is well.
In Grand Prairie,
while these battles are wildfire, the rest of Europe is sweltering in an ongoing heat wave. Spain's weather agency has issued an extreme heat warning for the Basque Country and Cantabria in the north. But intense heat is predicted throughout Spain. In the Basque city of Bilbao, temperatures have touched 45 degrees Celsius, while people seek shade under trees and umbrellas. The south of Spain usually bears the brunt of the summer heat, although the north is cooler comparatively. And residents say it is not unusual for cities like Bilbao to experience the highest temperature in the country on certain days of summer. French cities are gripped by an intense heat wave as well. Residents and tourists alike are looking for ways to cool down. Sunday was the culminating point of a heat wave that swept over France over the weekend, with the south of the country being hit the hardest. Now, in the southwestern city of Bordeaux, temperatures reached a peak of 39 degrees Celsius. Further north in Paris, temperatures rose up to 33 degrees Celsius. Europe has faced increasingly warm summers over the past years, with climate change leading to longer and more intense heat waves. Residents are pointing out that such peaks were not common a decade ago. Like residents, tourists have been sweltering across Europe. Cities in Italy are on red alert, including top holiday destinations such as Florence, Rome and Sicily.
We've travelled, we've been in Florence, we've been in Pisa, and now we've come here at the hottest weekend, and I am struggling. I am very struggling. I also have to have an inhaler because of the heat, etc., with my breathing. But I feel for everybody.
Out of the 27 cities across Italy, 14 were on red alert on Sunday. Meteorologists say Rome has been under a continuous heat wave without interruption since the beginning of July.
We've travelled, we've been in Florence, we've been in Pisa, and now we've come here at the hottest weekend, and I am struggling. I am very struggling. I also have to have an inhaler because of the heat, etc., with my breathing. But I feel for everybody.
Now, who's an Olympics for? Is it for the fans who make this a success? Is it for the host country who try to create an impression on the world watching? Or is it for the athletes, the ones who give everyone involved the most memorable moments? Not much argument in there. Athletes make the tournament what it is. So if the athletes fuel a tournament, why are they being forced to compromise? That's what this Olympics is beginning to look like. Athletes being forced to compromise on their sleep, being provided the narrowest cardboard beds, athletes forced to compromise on their food, providing meals that is in keeping with what the organizers want to give and not what the players want to consume. The days have led to food shortage, toilet paper scarcity, lack of air conditioning to sleep deprivation due to uncomfortable mattresses. Forcing Italian swimmer Thomas Ciccone, who won a gold medal at the 100-meter backstroke event, to sleep outside the Olympics village. Now, that's a picture taken of him in deep slumber, something many athletes have been deprived of, a good night's sleep. The most basic requirement. And that isn't all. From poor refereeing to a gender row where an Algerian boxer has been bullied, it seems that athletes at Paris have fought more mental battles off the field than they had to on the field. But wait till you hear this. The latest is of an athlete who's fallen sick after a swim in the River Seine. Belgium triathlete Claire Michel fell ill after competing in the women's triathlon event. Michel was hospitalized and treated for an E. coli infection. E. coli, a bacteria that can cause serious intestinal and medical concern. How is it transmitted? Through contaminated food or contaminated water that makes its way into the digestive tract via the mouth. Michel fell sick right after her swim in the River Seine, and that forced Belgium to pull out of the mixed triathlon event. Now, while the Belgian authorities didn't blame River Seine's pollution levels for Michel's sickness, the truth is Michel isn't the only athlete who fell ill after swimming in the river, highlighting a potential hazard for anyone swimming in River Seine. Before Michel's, Switzerland's Adrian Brifford had a stomach infection. This after Brifford competed in the men's triathlon event. He too pulled out of the mixed triathlon events thereafter. A Canadian triathlete, Tyler Mislochuk, got sick and threw up 10 times. Not a pretty sight, and not something you want to experience right in the middle of the most important tournament in your life. So it's not just one athlete. Many of the triathletes and those who swam in the river have had serious illnesses to combat, leading me to believe that the River Seine was indeed not swimmable. Pretty enough to be a tourist and ride on a yacht and take in the sights and sounds, sure, but not safe enough to be an athlete and swim in. Confirming this fact was Belgium triathlete Jolien Vermeulen, who was part of the women's triathlon event.
Can't say safety of athletes is a priority. While swimming under the bridge, I felt and saw things that we shouldn't think about too much. The Seine has been dirty for 100 years, so they can't say that the safety of the athletes is a priority. I took probiotics. I had the idea of not drinking water, but yes, IT failed. They couldn't cancel the race completely either. Now they just have to hope that there won't be too many sick athletes.
They have to hope there aren't too many sick athletes. Vermeulen's clearly saying that those who swam in the river felt something wasn't right. And picture the predicament of the athletes for a second here. You have to swim through a river that doesn't feel right. And if you stop, you're affecting the chances of your team, your country winning a medal. And think about it, a river where public swimming has been banned for over a century. How could it be squeaky clean so soon? Despite France's more than $1 billion investments on the cleanliness front, it is fair to say the river failed to deliver. Before the men's and women's triathlon events took place, the practice sessions, in fact, were cancelled. The organizers, though, went ahead and conducted the main events in the fear of backlash coming in from all quarters of them having to cancel events at the Games. But they didn't think it would take an ugly turn with athletes falling sick. Despite this calamity, the mixed relay event went ahead as planned, despite the practice sessions to those also being called off due to high toxin levels in the water. Clearly, the toxin levels in the water did not miraculously fall a day later for the event to take place. So safe to say, player safety was compromised. In an attempt to save face, Morgan Pearson highlighted that organizers could have invested more in having a clean water rather than cleaning the already dirty water. His competitor, Tim Helwig, talked about how such chaos disrupts the performance of the athlete. And the Belgium Federation, who had to pull out of the events, went a step further and said, "I hope the lessons will be learned for the future events." And even after the triathlon was conducted, the authorities went ahead and called off the practice sessions for the marathon event. That is still left to be conducted, and this time the organizers didn't even give a reason. What started off as a nostalgic need to create a beautiful panoramic event, swimming in River Seine, has resulted in a debacle that could snowball if federations of other countries decide to speak up. Even if they don't, I have to ask, why was Paris so ill-prepared in this count? Second, why could an alternate plan not have been thought out earlier? And third, and most important, how could they compromise athletes' safety? An answer to all those questions point to an episode that has caused a dent to the image of Paris and Paris Olympics.
Turning to the Middle East, the U.S. is sending more military assets as Israel is bracing for a major Iranian attack, which could come at any moment. American diplomats have been scrambling to get both sides to cool down and get back to the bargaining table after a senior Hamas leader was killed in Tehran. The next round of ceasefire talks are scheduled for this Thursday. Both the U.S. and Israel say they will send negotiators. Hamas, however, has hinted that it will not be returning to negotiations. Instead, it is calling for a plan to be drawn up based on past proposals.
We believe that there has been headway made, but we need to finalize this agreement, continue to close and bridge some gaps. But we believe that an agreement is possible, and that's something that we're going to continue to work between the parties.
Those upcoming negotiations come as the Pentagon is calling for a submarine to head toward the Middle East. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin ordered a guided missile submarine to the Middle East yesterday and directed an aircraft carrier to quickly arrive in that region as well.
Making a rare move, it's publicly announcing that it is sending a guided missile submarine to the Middle East as concerns grow that Iran could attack Israel at any moment. ABC's Rhiannon Alley has the latest.
This morning, the Pentagon is ordering the USS Georgia to the Middle East. The nuclear-powered submarine is capable of holding more than 150 Tomahawk missiles. Tensions in the region have been building after the former leader of Hamas was assassinated in Iran's capital last month. Hamas blames Israel for the killing, and Iran has vowed revenge. The Pentagon typically keeps the movements of submarines classified. Analysts say this rare announcement is a clear message to Iran to back down. The website Axios reports Israeli intelligence believes Iran has decided to attack Israel within days. Israel's defense minister telling U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin that Iran is preparing a large-scale attack. Israel says if Iran does launch an attack, Iran can expect a, quote, blow unlike any other in return. Hamas and Israel were set to resume ceasefire talks this week. Those talks now in question.
Hamas is indicating it will not attend, saying there is no need for, quote, more rounds of negotiations or new proposals because Hamas says there is a previous framework deal it is willing to accept.
Rhiannon Alley, ABC News.
Criminals out of Caracas and out of all the cities. He took all of them out and dumped them into the United States. He emptied his prisons into the United States of America. Why are we taking this? Why do we take this? Why? So don't take my word for it. Listen. Kamala Harris's agenda straight from her own mouth. Would anybody like to see her? Let's do it for a couple of seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am radical. We need to get radical about what we are doing and take it seriously.
As President of the United States, I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance.
Let's eliminate all of that.
But would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
You know, the food pyramid. What people
Yes. Yes.
to reduce red meat specifically.
Yes, I would.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
This whole movement is about rightly saying we need to take a look at these budgets.
Harris asserted that ICE is perceived as the modern-day Ku Klux Klan.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
That puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me? I see no parallel.
I'm not finished.
I see none.
And yeah, I am radical. We need to get radical about what we are doing.
And that's just a small part of it. That's just a small part. That's what we have, though. That's where they're going. We're going. Remember I said we will not become a socialist country? And I meant it, except I was wrong. We didn't become a socialist. We're going beyond socialism. We're becoming, if they get in, a communist, full-blown communist country. This is America. We're not a communist country. We're not going to let that happen. And Kamala is not just, she's not just dangerously extreme, and she is extreme, much more so than Biden, because Biden didn't know he was alive, let's face it, okay? Are you a socialist? What does that mean? What does it mean? Are you a communist, Joe? I don't know. So